Hey everyone, so this is the Leetcode problem 2-sum, and this is how I would personally solve it. The first step for every Leetcode problem is you should be able to visualize the problem. So it says here that you are given an array of integers called nums. So nums is a given variable that stores a list of arrays and an integer target. So target will have a single value set into it, which is also an integer. Return indices of the two numbers such as they add up to the target. So you want to look for values inside the array that add up to target. But it says here that you may assume that each input will have exactly one solution. So there will always be two values that add up to target. But you may not use the same element twice. So you cannot add x to x because you need two unique values. So x plus y would work, x plus z would work, and y plus z would work. But y plus y would not work. Z plus z would not work. You need two unique values. So let's run through example 1, but let's change the value so it's a little better. I don't like their examples here. So let's do 3, 4, 8, and 2. Set our target into 10. So when you're looking through an array, each value inside an array would be set into an index. So an index is simply just you counting. So you always start from 0. So we set the indexes for this. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. And it says here that once you do get the answer, you are expected to return the index value rather than the value. So let's do this. 3 plus 4 is equal to 7 and not 10. So that is not our answer. 3 plus 8 is 11. 3 plus 2 is 5. 4 plus 8 is 12. 4 plus 2 is 6. And now we get to 8 plus 2. So 8 plus 2 is equals to 10. And, you would just return 8 and 2 because they add up to each other. But from the example given is we're expected to return the index. So rather than returning the value themselves, you look at where they are in the array. So it seems like they are in the positions 2 and 3. So rather than returning 8 and 2, you return 2 and 3. Okay, so now that we got that down, we want to be able to visualize how to do it in code, like what our steps are. So for coding, I would use a hash map. So a hash map of a dictionary. And the reason I'm using a dictionary is because it can store a key and a value. So in the key and the value, what I would store is the value and the index of the number. So let's create another example. So nums is equals to 7, 8, 2, and 3. And then target is 5. Okay, so what my code will do is, first of all, our dictionary, which is our hash map. My main goal here is to subtract nums from target and then check if that value is inside the hash map. So let's iterate through this one by one. So let's start with 7. Don't forget the indexes though. Let's start with 7. So target minus 7 is equals to -2. Is there any value of -2 inside the hash map? No. So now we set 7 and then the index 0 inside our hash map. Next step. We're now in index 1. So 5 minus 8 is equals to -3. Is there any 3 inside the hash map? No. So now we input 8 into the hash map. So 8 is to 1. Next step, we're now on 2. So 5 minus 2 is equals to 3. Now, do we see a 3 inside the hash map? No. So we set the value of 2 again and its index into the dictionary. So it'll be 2, and 2. And now we get into the third index of 5 minus 3 is equals to 2. Now is 2 inside the hash map? Our answer is yes. So now, when you feed a key into a dictionary, it spits out the value. If you feed in a value into the dictionary, it spits out the key. So the way we would want to return this is we want to say hash map and then 2. Since now that we're feeding the value 2, I mean, this isn't really a good example since 2 and 2. So since now we're feeding the value key inside it, it's going to return us the value of the index. So it's going to return 2 again. And then for the other value, we just want to set the index. The reason we want to set the index is since we're iterating through the third value, if we input the index, it spits out back the value. So this index. And now let's do this in code. So it's going to be a lot easier to visualize. Don't worry, I'll be walking through everything. So first of all, we want to set a hash map. You could name your hash map whatever, but I usually do scene underscore hash map equals to an empty dictionary because we don't have values inside it yet. And then for this, we want to be able to iterate through each value in the array. So for this, I would be using enumerate. So for a for loop that uses enumerate nums. So the reason I'm using enumerate is because when you do a normal for loop, so like for I in range of nums, that just gives you index. And you could use the index to get the value or the index, but when you use enumerate, it gives you both index and the value, which is going to be a lot more useful since we have to return the index of something. Hang on. We have to return the index of something. So when you're iterating through it using enumerate, you're getting these two at once, which is what you want. So it's a lot easier to store. Okay, so now that we have a for loop given that iterates through each number, now we want to set the new target. So this target, the new target. So this one. So the target minus value. So that's what we want to set. So new actually find value is equals to, or let's just name it new target. New target is equals to target minus v. The reason we're using v is because we're subtracting the value. If you subtract the index, you're not really going to get an answer. So you want to subtract the value instead. So 7, 8, 2. Okay, so now that we've got this new target, we want to check if new target is inside hash map. So if new target is inside scene hash map, then we return scene hash map and then new target and then the index. The reason we're doing this is we're checking if new target is inside the dictionary. So we're checking if we're in this step currently. We're checking if the value or the difference of target minus value is inside the dictionary. And if it is, we're saying we do this. So we feed the value into the dictionary so you get your key back. Since we're doing value and index, so value is your index and key is your v. So since we're feeding our value into this, we're gonna get our index back, and which is what we want, since if you look here, we are returning indexes. So now that we have done that, what if it's in the case that it's not inside the scene hash map? Now, this is why we set the value. So if it's not in scene hash map, we want to do scene hash map. And then the current value of like what number we're currently iterating through is equals to index. So this is where we set this part right here. So if you look through here, scene hash map v is 7. is equals to I. So scene hash map 7 is equals to 0, in other words. And if we run this, this should run. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions towards this problem, you could put it in the comments and I will do my best to reply. So thank you for watching, and again, this was the problem 2 sum for Leetcode.